Today we're going to talk about sabotaging your marriage. We do this in a lot of ways, you guys, and I wanted to talk about this before Valentine's Day because some of you are sabotaging yourselves about Valentine's Day because you have crazy expectations about what that should look like. And your husband is probably all nervous. He's not sure what to do about this whole thing. So I say, let them off the hook. Let them be who they are. And because you're not going to change them anyways. And then if you do it the other way with manipulation and with nagging and with whatever, you're not going to get the results you want anyways. So let's try a different approach. Let's try dropping, like we talked about last week, dropping the expectations. Let's try meeting our own emotional needs and not hinging everything in your marriage on some dumb day that somebody came up with at Hallmark. That's not a good idea. I remember when I was still early enough in my marriage that everything I felt like hinged on Valentine's Day because, first of all, you want to be able to tell your friends what your guy did for you. So you feel the pressure, which you gladly pass on to them. And I remember feelings, even when I remember getting the flowers and still feeling disappointed because whatever, the presentation wasn't right, or, well, he didn't look like he really meant it, or, you know what I mean? And so, let's just let the pressure off. It's just a day, and let's work on the real stuff, which is your marriage is here for your sanctification. Your marriage is here for the protection of children and for you to have somebody to love. What about that idea? What about your marriage is here for you to grow and to work on the things about yourself that aren't quite refined enough and sanctified enough, and all these little issues that you get in your marriage are for you, so that you can become who you're supposed to be. And your job is just to love the other person, not to change them or manipulate them or blame them or hold grudges or resentments or hold Valentine's Day over their head or whatever. What if it was just to love them and you just got good at loving them and you just got a lot of good practice at being someone who loves well? Because you can't change them anyway. So some of you are saying, yeah, but what about him? What about his responsibility? Listen, this is just you and me. So I can't change Stevie, but the closest I can come to actually seeing transformation is in him. You know what it is? Somebody take a guess as to the closest way you'll ever come to changing somebody. What can you give them or do for them that comes closer than anything else? Anybody want to take a guess? It's Valentine's Day. That should give you a hint. Unconditional love. Unconditional love transforms people. And we're so good at wanting it, but we're not that great at giving it. And so in so many ways, we're sabotaging our relationships because we're going about it all the wrong way. We have these crazy expectations of what we think they should do. We hold resentments. We can't wait to be offended. Think about all the ways, all the things that you think about your marriage. The ways he's not measuring up, the things he forgets, all the things, those negative thoughts that you have about your marriage. If you continue to set your heart on that and focus on that, you'll continue to see that, because guess what? If somebody set their mind that they were going to find everything negative about you, they would find it about you too. And if you set your mind on that, you're going to continue to find that. And it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, because when you come at the relationship looking for negativity and with defensiveness and with resentment and with really high expectations, you know what other people do in any relationship, not just marriage? People back up and go, ooh, that chick's intense. she's got a lot of expectations, and I'm never going to be able to, live up to that. When you come to the relationship with all of that, you're going to push him away. And then he's going to do the thing that you were predicting. He's not going to meet your expectations just like you were predicting. You'll just keep getting more of the same. And when you turn the tides, and you can't wait for him to turn the tides. Only you can turn the tide in any relationship that you have, because the only person you have control over is yourself, right? The only person you have control of is yourself. So if you want to change your relationship with your mom, who do you change? Not your mom. You. You want to change your relationship with your mother-in-law, who do you change? You. You want to change your relationship with your husband, who do you change? You change you. And trust me when I say that, the more you dig into here, the more I have done work on myself, the more work needs to be done. The more excavating I do of this hard heart of mine, this stubborn streak that I have, this need that I have to be right, this need that I have to feel entitled and to blame someone else for my emotional state, the more I dig in here, the more I find. It's like peeling back an onion, and there's more layers and more layers and more layers. Listen, you're never going to get to him. If you do the work on you, you're never even going to get to him. You're going to be so busy working on you that you're never going to get to him. But here's the magic of it all. When you work on you from a place of love, and you genuinely want to be transformed more into the image of Christ, more into the person that you were created to be, it's so magnetizing. It draws people to you because nobody else is doing it. And guess who it will draw to you? Your actual spouse. They will be drawn to you too, because they see this humility and this need not to be right, but this need to love. They see somebody who wants to love at all costs. If you ask my husband, tell me something about your wife, what I want him to say, probably what he would say is, she loves oils. What I want him to say is, she's just bent on loving. Like, she just loves. She's got a stubborn streak about love. She loves our family unconditionally. She loves me unconditionally. She loves like nobody I've ever seen. That's what I want him to say. I want you to think about, how do you want your spouse to talk about you to his coworkers? How do you want your spouse to talk about you if you were gone? If you were like on a trip for 3 weeks, what do you want him to feel? What do you want him to miss about you? And I want you to think about, do your actions, is the way you're living towards him, would it make him say that? It's kind of like thinking about what you would want someone to say at your funeral before you die. And then thinking to yourself, am I living that way? Am I living in such a way that this is what people would say about me if I wasn't here? Right? And think about your marriage in the same way. How do you want him to experience your marriage? More importantly, how do you want to experience your marriage? Because really, that's the only thing you can control. And if you want to have more joy and contentment in your marriage, guess who you have to change? You. Right? You don't have to change him to have more joy and contentment in your marriage. You have to change you, which is the only thing you can change anyways. How you think about your marriage. You start there. Start with the thoughts that you have about your marriage. We talked about this last week, where you're brainstorming, all the things that you love about him, and the ways that you were attracted to him, and all of that, right? So it starts with how you think about him, and then how you think about him, that becomes how you feel about him, and then you show up that way. And I promise you that what you are getting in your relationships is just a mirror. The relationships in your life are a mirror to how you are showing up in your life. So if people will say this, like, there are certain people that you can think of that are having trouble with everybody in their life, like, oh, my spouse, and oh, the blaming people at work, and oh, these people are making me mad. Well, the thing of it is, the thing that all those people have in common is you. And I promise you that if you really begin to work earnestly on the things in your own self that need fixing, you won't have time to complain about other people. You'll be too busy. You'll be busy for the rest of your life. It'll keep you busy just going, wow, why am I having that resentment again? And why is this coming up? And you'll be busy dealing with your own junk and clearing that out so that you can be a channel of love and generosity and service to other people. But when you look at that relationship as a mirror, I took a marriage course one time, and the guy said, if you want to know how a husband is doing in the marriage, look on the face of his wife. Because it's like a mirror. And so how do you want to show up? Do you want to show up and be scowling and looking for negativity and angry and easily offended and quick to blame other people and never give the benefit of the doubt? Is that how you want to show up? Because then your relationships you'll start to see that in everybody in your life. And that's not what any of us want. What do we want in our relationships? One word again. The answer all day today is love. We want love. How do you get love? You give love. And when you give it, you start to see it everywhere. You go, oh, interesting. I'm seeing all kinds of love in my life. I'm seeing love in my spouse and love in my kids and love in my coworkers, because that is how I decided to show up. And we sabotage our relationships when we choose anything else. Some of you just want it to be fair. You want to have a fair marriage. Do you know what a fair marriage feels like? Ugh. It feels like court, because court is fair, right? I spent last Wednesday in court. Let me tell you, you don't want your marriage to feel like court. You don't want fair. I promise you, you don't. But that's sometimes like, I just want things to be fair. I want him to do his part. I want him to blah, 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 blah. Well, mirror, okay? You want fair? Okay, I'll take out the trash 3.5 times a week. And nobody wants fair, right? Maybe you want to be right. That'll sabotage your marriage. You want to be right, but you will be right at the expense of your relationship. You can be right all day long. And I can point to you relationships where I know that somebody's decided they're just going to be right. You can be right. Sure. But is that really what you want? When we feel like, well, we've won some kind of argument, or he just needs to understand that I'm right, or whatever, when you win that. And so if you win that, what you win is actually nothing. And you get to indulge in the emotion that, hey, I won this little fight, or I won whatever. But I don't think that's what you want your relationship to be about, is being right. You want to blame somebody? You can blame somebody. It could be all his fault. Let's just all agree that everything is all his fault. I was convinced of this the first 7 years of my marriage. Everything wrong in our marriage is his fault. You can have that. You can indulge in that if you want to, but it is not going to give you the relationship that you want. Because first of all, you are responsible for you. You're responsible for your own emotional health, for your own inner life. He's not responsible for that. He's not responsible for your happiness or your joy or your peace or whatever. You're responsible for that. And when you continue to blame somebody else, it's this weird entitlement that, like, well, somebody else should have treated me better so I could feel better. No, treat yourself better and you'll feel better. And then you won't bring these weird entitlement attitudes to your relationship. And then you can just come with no other motive except to love? What if you just came to love? And you stopped sabotaging with all these other things. You stopped sabotaging with manipulation, and you stopped sabotaging with you want everything to be fair, and you want to blame somebody, and we do this all the time, and it doesn't give us the relationship we want. So the thing that you need most is the thing you need to give. First, give yourself, and then give other people. So how can you go into this week of, when the culture tells us this is the love week or whatever, this is the week to, what if you just went about it? What if you just turned it on its head? What does your husband want for Valentine's Day, by the way? What about if you just let him be? Because newsflash, he's going to be himself anyways. But what about if you just let him be himself, and you didn't have all these weird entitlements and these weird expectations and all this stuff that you brought to the relationship? So the thing of it is, yeah, y'all are so good. Yes. Cook him dinner, have some intimacy. He'll be so happy. And if you looked at it like that, if you looked at it like, how can I show up? How can I show up in the way that he feels loved, in the way that he would want? How can I show up my best in the way that he wants? And dropping the expectations. And I know a lot of you are going to say, yeah, well, what about me? And I want this. But the problem is, you can only change you. And I promise you that if you begin to seriously work on that, it will end up changing him, because love is transformative for everybody.